looking bald as hell. Real racy acidity. Not my favorite. Sucked on a rock, crushes it.
The liquid culture.
What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining me again here on the Liquid Culture. Another episode today. Got a fresh cut, spring summer cut, looking bald as hell. Getting ready for the warm summer months coming up here in Texas. Also enjoying a little bit of springtime wine today. Big episode, but first, have to say, tough loss last night for the Red Raiders. Sorry about you, fellas. National championship game. I was rooting for you. I was pulling for you guys. I'm not a Raider myself, but got to cheer for the Texas squads, the Big 12 squads. They had an incredible run. I was really feeling it. I was really thinking it could be done. I was thinking they could be the second Texas team ever to win a national championship in basketball, but unfortunately UVA was just a little bit too strong. So I don't know. Maybe next year, maybe they'll be back with a vengeance. Who knows? They'll have a pretty strong Baylor Bears squad to contend against. So look out. Bears are coming in hot. Guys, today we are ripping out a pretty big ep. We are talking about Chenin Blanc. As you'll see, I've got 4 bottles lined up here. I'm already diving into one of them. Nice little afternoon here in Dallas. I think it's like 73 degrees outside. Wanted a little sparkling Chenin Blanc after lunch. Sounded nice, so went ahead and jumped right in to start drinking one of the bottles. But reason this is such a big episode today, guys, is because you'll see in the write-up, I'm going to try and keep the video as short as possible, so I'm keeping most of the detail on Chenin Blanc in the write-up, so you'll see that on the site. But the reason I wanted to do an entire video just on Chenin Blanc is because of how versatile of a grape Chenin Blanc is. You can make almost any style of wine, any style of white wine with Chenin Blanc. You can make dry styles. You can make the crisp, clean, floral styles. You could also make the kind of bigger body dry styles. You can make off-dry wines, sweet wines, sparkling wines, really intense dessert wines. Chenin Blanc is incredibly versatile in the world of white grapes. So I wanted to do a full video on it, not only to kind of teach you guys a little bit about Chenin Blanc if you're not aware of the grape, but also maybe talk a little bit about how Chenin Blanc could be a grape that's on the rise. So we'll see. We'll see how things continue to go with Chenin Blanc, but I think that it's moving in a good direction, especially given some of its history. It was such a widely planted grape in so many of these different regions that we'll talk about today, but when it was planted back then, it was mainly used for cheap bulk jug wine in a lot of these places, and then that fell out of favor. People wanted more serious wines. They started ripping up the Chenin Blanc in place of more serious grapes like Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, things like that. And now Chenin Blanc starting to come back into favor, especially some of the Chenin Blanc that was left back in the day, right? Because, some of it didn't get pulled up. So you've got some old vine Chenin Blanc that's out there doing big things. So want to dive into some Chenin Blanc today. The first little quaffer that I'm sipping on here is a sparkling Chenin Blanc from Vouvray, which we'll do this, and then we'll hit a still Vouvray, because that is the home of Chenin Blanc in France. This is a Breton La Dilettante. Get the bottle up for you guys. Kind of a fun little label there. La Dilettante from Breton. Loire Valley, Vouvray. The Bretons, they're really kind of like a natural wine icon. They make their wines with grapes from organic vineyard sites on really good soils and things like that. The clay and the flint soils. They use minimal dosage in their sparklers and minimal sulfites in all of their wines. This is a traditional method Sparkling wine, you know, that's basically saying it's made like the sparkling wines are made in Champagne, and made again with Chenin Blanc. So, I mean, it's the reason I've just been kind of sipping on this. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. I mean, it's a $20 sparkler. It's 12%, very easy, nothing fussy, but you know, a nice kind of natural sparkling wine for you for really any occasion. It's got a little bit of that bready thing on the nose like you get with a sparkling wine that's been made in that method champenois, where you get a lot of that bready yeast characteristic. A little apple, a little lemon. I don't know why I spit that. I've been sitting here drinking this, but now that I'm on film, we got to keep it professional, right? So, not crazy effervescent, really. This is the first time I'm trying this wine. Not super effervescent, but I have not had it before in the past, so I can't tell if that's normal or if this just so happens to be a bottle with a little bit less effervescence. But, you know, like I said, minimal dosage, so you know, you're not going to have a really aggressive bottle fermentation taking place with a minimal dosage. So very kind of clean, crisp. It's a little off dry. You can taste a little bit of residual sugar, which you'll kind of see is a little bit of a pattern with Chenin Blanc, that it's a grape that winemakers will tend to leave a little residual sugar in order to up that mouthfeel, especially in something like a sparkling wine where you've got a lot of acid and you've got those bubbles that kind of cut through it. But with this one, since it's not super effervescent, the acidity is still really nice, but because it's not super effervescent, you can taste some of that residual sugar. But yeah, let me see. Not overly effervescent. Let's see how it pours. See, it pours a little bit bubbly, you know. It's kind of fun. But again, I mean, this is not a super fussy, serious wine. I mean, this is a wine that I bought. I honestly didn't even buy this wine with the intent of putting it into this tasting video, but I had it and I felt like drinking it, and I figured, what the hell, it's Chenin Blanc. Let's pop it and drink a little bit before we do the rest of them. Now that I've got a fresher pour, it is a little bit more effervescent, so that might just be one of those where the bubbles kind of go away pretty quickly after it's been poured in the glass. But really tasty stuff. Definitely a sparkler that I'd have by the pool, or if I'm having friends over during the day, do a little day drinking. Yeah, fun stuff. So let's move on. Clos les Vins, Vouvray 2015. This is from Monmoussau. Who knows if I'm saying that right? You guys know, I'm not great. I don't speak French, but I try. Monmoussau 2015, from the Loire, Vouvray. Again, Vouvray is where Chenin Blanc hails from. So wanted to start in that region. So Vouvray, sub-region of the Loire Valley. The Loire Valley is situated in northwest France, almost directly across the country from Champagne. It kind of runs horizontal, ending on the coast with Muscadet, which is another sub-region of the Loire. But Vouvray finds itself kind of in the middle there of the Loire Valley. The Loire Valley is an incredibly diverse wine region in France. You have all styles of wine being made there: sparkling, rosé, white, red, dessert. Everything you can think of is being made in the Loire Valley, and in a really great way, actually, because the Loire, much like Champagne, is up in one of those, like, you know, really cold, high, kind of the high latitude growing regions of the world. So you get a lot of sharp acidity, which is what's so great with Chenin Blanc. It's a high acid grape, but it's a medium bodied grape, right? So you have this medium body thing going on, but you also have that real racy acidity that no matter really when you pick it, it's going to continue to have that acidity. And especially in a region like the Loire Valley, where it is a cooler climate, you're really going to have some really nice acidic wines coming from there. So this smells like very, very flinty, very like savory. This is not like a sweet or really fruit-forward smelling white wine. It's more kind of, there's a little bit of green apple, there's a little bit of like a lemon pith kind of thing. But I'm getting a lot of rocks, like flinty rocks. There's some honey. There is a little honey, but it's not a super sweet, like dessert wine kind of honey. This is probably going to be made in like an off-dry style. So I'd assume there's probably going to be a little bit more honey on the palate. But it smells really nice. It smells very savory, like something that you would for sure want to pair with like foods and things of that nature. Little honey, little flint, little lemon pith. Definitely off dry. Full mouthfeel. Really, really full in the mouth. Almost, wow. I mean, it's very different. I mean, you might be watching this if you've never had an off-dry Chenin Blanc before. Maybe you've had an off-dry Riesling before, and you might be thinking, oh, I know what that feels like in the mouth, but it's different. It's a lot different, actually. It doesn't feel anything like really like an off-dry Riesling because there's so much of that rock. Like I feel like I just sucked on a rock and then spit it out and then poured like some honey in my mouth and then maybe squeezed like a lime a little bit and they're not a lime, a lemon. In my mouth after that. So not ultra sweet, but you can definitely feel that off-dry mouthfeel that you get with off-dry wines. I really like this wine, y'all. 25 bones for the bottle. It's a 2015. You're at about 12.5 alcohol on this wine. So it does kind of fall in that category of like that Sunday brunch sipper, right? Those kind of off-dry Rieslings, not the super sweet like German Rieslings, but some of those more off-dry styles of Riesling. But with this wine, you have so much of that savory rock thing going on that if you're off-put by a fruit-forward off-dry wine, like that fruitiness really adds to that off-dry sweetness and it almost makes it too much. If you're looking for something with that full mouthfeel, where it really just kind of lingers on your palate a little bit, but you want something that isn't so fruit forward. You want something a little bit more mineral driven. This is a nice bottle of wine, guys. Really enjoying this. Excellent Sunday sipper. Excellent food pairing wine. I think you could do a lot of fish, chicken, really kind of, I wouldn't go towards the like shellfish side of things because I don't really generally care for that play of kind of Swedish with something like oysters or clams or something like that. That's generally not the route I like to go. I like something with a lot more acidity. The acidity on this is nice, but I think that because of that a little bit of residual sugar, it balances that acidity out. And you end up with something that would pair really nice with some fish dishes and some chicken dishes. So let's move on. I did show you guys. All right, perfect. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. All right. poured a little bit more than I wanted to give it a rinse, but it's okay. We're balancing a lot of things here. We've got bottles everywhere. I've got my Stormtrooper hanging out with me over here. Spear. That is the vintage, the 15 vintage Chenin Blanc from Spear. Guys, this is a $16 bottle from South Africa. So let's talk about this. So we started in France. We had 2 bottles from France, right? Pretty classic wine country. South Africa. Is South Africa considered a wine country? To a lot of people it is. And in fact, South Africa puts out a lot of wine. You might not be very familiar with it as a wine growing region, but I would say if you were familiar with it, you know that it is a Chenin Blanc place. South Africa, you've got Chenin Blanc on the white side, you've got Pinotage on the red side. Not my favorite grape varietal on the red side. Pinotage, it's got this weird tar thing going on with it. Haven't really had one that I enjoy, but South Africa does make some nice Chenin Blanc. They make them in that, not so much in that kind of off dry style that you get with the Vouvray, but you have this kind of more crisp, clean, driven effort that usually comes out of South Africa. And immediately this thing smells almost like Sauvignon Blanc-y to me. It's a lot more floral and kind of grassy almost. So with Spear, they're a producer that make kind of definitely a value play here, but they make a kind of non-vintage line of wines, and then they make these kind of vintage selection wines where they're single varietal, vintage harvests, and I mean, you would think $16, it can't get much cheaper than that. The non-vintage stuff does, but I wanted to grab the vintage here. Still a value-driven play for the Chenin Blanc. So yeah, very grassy, very lemon. I mean, this kind of has a pretty standard kind of Sauvignon Blanc-y white wine kind of a nose to it. I mean, nothing really special jumping out at me that's kind of got that grassy floral thing. It's a little musty, almost like if somebody spritzed a little bit of like a perfume or something in there. The acid to mouthfeel kind of ratio is a little bit off for me. Man, I was really kind of hoping that this would be a better... I try and find these value plays for you guys, I think, as much as possible. And while I think that a lot of you wouldn't mind going out and spending $25 on a low-yield, hand-harvested Vouvray Chenin Blanc from France, I think that I really try and find some of these cheaper offerings that might blow some of these away. This one's just not doing it for me. I mean, I don't want to say that I hate it, but it's just not. It's the mouth feels a little off balance for me, and the nose just almost seems like, hey, let's make a wine that smells like any other Sauvignon Blanc or something like that people just keep a bottle in their fridge and pop it when they really need something to drink, kind of thing. Yeah, I don't. I don't want to be aggressive with it, but just not my style. Not my style. Let's move on, guys. Getting to Texas here. So, you guys have heard me talk about Texas before. I'm from Texas. I'm kind of born and raised here, and I do have feelings about Texas wine, and I'm a big proponent of what some people are doing in Texas, but I also don't want to seem like overly zealous about it to try and push anybody into Texas wine just because I have a place in my heart for it. If I like a Texas wine, I'll tell you. If I don't like a Texas wine, I'll tell you that as well. And I think that it's important to kind of keep an unbiased opinion about things on this show. So what we've got here, we've got the McPherson 2016 dry Chenin Blanc. So like I said, you've got off dry styles, you've got dessert styles, and you've got dry styles. So we went with the dry style here for the McPherson. Guys, this is the cheapest bottle in the lineup. It's a $12 bottle. We're looking at about 13% alcohol. So a little story about McPherson, and the reason I really wanted to include them in this lineup here is because, first of all, McPherson. Doc McPherson was one of the pioneers of the Texas wine industry. He started back in the 70s out in West Texas, really started planting things to try and figure out what grows well, really started working with winemaking techniques that he thought would be best suited to the grapes. And his son, Kim McPherson, has since taken over, and I love what the McPherson brand does. Kim is always trying to pick the fruit at the right time, leaving plenty of fresh acidity. He makes wines in as minimal of a style as possible. And when I say that, I don't mean like he's trying to do like a natural wine thing, but he wants to make wines that allow the fruit to express itself as naturally as possible without adding really without adding a lot of extra stuff to it. Chenin Blanc is something that McPherson, I think, does really well. I have had their Chenin Blancs before in the past. I have not had this 2016 Chenin Blanc. I've had their sparkling version that they do, which is outstanding, guys. Like, it's crazy good, cheap as hell. Chenin Blanc sparkling wine from McPherson. It's got a decent amount of residual sugar in it, but unlike with the with this guy here, what you have is a lot more effervescence and a lot higher acid with it, so you don't perceive that residual sugar at all. This Chenin Blanc is a dry style made with some of the older vines planted in Texas, actually, so there should be a lot of character on this wine. Okay, so the nose to me, it almost is a little bit like the South African Chenin, where it's got some of that perfumey, grassy stuff going on, but you get a lot more of the kind of like stone fruits. There's some peach and some honey in here, as well as some almost tropical fruit vibes going on. A little bit of little by the beach tropical fruit smoothie. A little bit of papaya and like mango and pineapple kind of stuff going on here. It actually is a nice balance. It does have that floral component, but it also has some of those really nice ripe tropical fruits going on with it as well. So I'm really excited to taste this. Okay, so now I'm excited because here's a $12 bottle that I think crushes it. So it's almost like it's in between the Vouvray and the Spear. So you've got that. It's not as powerful of that mouthfeel that you get with the Vouvray, because it is a dry style. It's not an off-dry style, so I don't think that you have anywhere near the amount of residual sugar in this wine as you did in the Vouvray. The acidity is nice and sharp, really well balanced palate, and you do get some of that like honey and floral thing going on. So I'm gonna try and keep restrained on this because, like I said, I don't want to go over the top with the Texas thing, right? But this is a really good wine. This is a very, very good wine. I would not bullshit you guys. I promise that. I think my love for wine at times outshines my love for the state of Texas. So I promise you I would not bullshit you on this. This is a very good wine. So far, the running is the Vouvray, and the McPherson is hot on its trail because you've got a little bit of a different style. I think that the McPherson plays the role more so of the everyday white wine that you can again pair really well with food, or you can just drink it by the pool if you're looking to do something like that. It doesn't have that additional kind of off dry sweetness that the Vouvray has, but in terms of the overall complexity of the things that are going on here, you even still have a little bit of that minerality that you had with the Vouvray, but more so the tropical fruits and things of that nature coming in with this. I think this is a really nice bottle of wine at $12. I would highly rec this, would highly rec the Vouvray. Let's move on to the next wine and wrap this thing up here, guys. I'm gonna take one more drink though. Yeah, no doubt. So I'm going to be a little bit careful with this PAX here in terms of not wanting to waste too much of it, because this is the priciest bottle we've got in the lineup here today, guys. I wouldn't say that you should take that as it's going to be the best wine. I don't know. I haven't tasted it. But PAX definitely falls into that kind of smaller producer, California natural wine thing. In fact, I think that PAX, both the PAX brand from PAX Mall and his Wingap brand as well are probably considered, if you ask some people about natural wines that have kind of made their push into, they've been distributed out, people kind of know these wines are not the super obscure natural wines, but you can find these wines places, and they do fall into that natural wine category of dry farm vineyards, very minimal chemicals used in the vineyard and in the winemaking process as well. This Chenin Blanc was made from grapes, grapes planted in 1944, y'all. 1944. So definitely considered old vine grapes, volcanic soils. This is a $35 bottle of wine. It comes from the Buddha's Dharma vineyard in Mendocino County. It's a very interesting nose on this. Certainly different from all of the other wines that we've tasted here today. And the color, whereas the color on really the first, well, not the sparkling, but on the Vouvray, the McPherson, and the Spear was all a little bit kind of like this very yellowy yellow thing. This is almost like a gold hay type color. And the nose has this like candy thing going on to it. Almost like a lemon candy. The ones that you pop in your mouth are a little sour at first, but then that sour coating kind of wears off, and then you're just left with this kind of sweet lemon candy. It kind of has that vibe going on to it, and that's really kind of all I'm picking up. I'm not getting a lot of flinty stone or anything like that. I'm not getting a ton of tropical fruits, but like a candied lemon for sure. And I think there's a little bit of vanilla on it as well, which, I mean, it was fermented in neutral French oak, and then it says it was barrel aged for 11 months. I don't know if that barrel aged means in neutral oak. I would imagine based off of PAX's winemaking style, but I do get a little hint of almost vanilla. Immediate acidity. Immediate. Wow, that's crazy that I picked up that lemon, that tart lemon candy on the nose, because it tastes just like that. I mean, it has that all over the palate. It's pretty much all I'm getting, honestly, is that kind of tart lemon candy on the palate. Yeah, a lot of acidity, a lot of lemon. Not my favorite, honestly, which I'm surprised by because I love Pax wines. I love Wind Gap wines. I think that they're doing some really interesting and fun stuff with both of those labels, but I don't know that it's I don't know that it's really a wine that I would spend $35 on. Let me get back to you on it because as I always do with these videos, I will, when I finish up, I'm going to continue to drink these wines, well, not drink, taste these wines off camera, take some more detailed notes, really get what I think are the legit tasting notes on them. Usually my on-camera tasting notes match up with what I do after, but I can get a little bit more when I'm not trying to rush through it. I'll have to let you know how I feel about this one. I think it could develop, but it almost feels like there's just not enough fruit to carry that acidity or to balance out that acidity. It's almost like it just tastes like straight acidity. Yeah, I don't know if maybe they were going for like that old world kind of mineral, flinty, chalky thing, and it just kind of didn't follow through or what. But yeah, I'll have to revisit this one and see if maybe it opens up, because white wines do open up, guys. They do open up. So maybe after this one's been open for a little while, some of that acidity will blow off a little bit, and I'll be able to pick up a little bit more. So look for that in the tasting notes. So, guys, winners right here. 2 winners. Love the Vouvray. I guess no surprise there, but I was really, like I said, kind of hoping to have one of these value plays come in and blow it up. I would say that the McPherson didn't blow it up, right? It didn't blow the Vouvray out of the water. I think that the Vouvray still would be the #1 for me just because of everything that's going on with it and that really nice, rich mouthfeel. But I think that the McPherson Dry Chenin Blanc 2016 is a really, really good Chenin Blanc play at $12. Go out, see if you can find one of each of these and try them next to each other, because you'll see what I'm talking about when you do them side by side. That one's got a little bit more of that residual sugar thing going on, while as the McPherson kind of plays a role of a Chenin Blanc that's a little bit more approachable for your everyday white wine drinker who may not be so familiar with that off-dry style. So, guys, had a lot of fun today doing the Chenin Blanc. Gonna get into these, probably honestly drink them throughout the rest of the week to see how they kind of develop. Obviously, I'm not gonna pour any of this wine out. But be looking for the write-up, because I will have the follow-up tasting notes to go in that as well, along with food pairings and a lot more in-depth detail on Chenin Blanc, its plantings in all of these different places, and that kind of stuff, some of its history and those good things. So, thanks a lot for joining me again today, guys, on The Liquid Culture. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.